Welcome to the AI Download. I'm Masala Dukely. I lead workplace strategy here at Charter. If you are new to Charter, we're a future of work media and research company. And I'll have Jacob introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacob Clementi. I'm Charter's senior AI and work reporter. It's good to be with you.
Yeah. And we're excited to be joined by Zig Serafin, who's the CEO of Qualtrics. So you are likely familiar with Qualtrics, but if not, Qualtrics is an experience management platform focused on turning feedback into predictive insights and actionable recommendations. Zig joined Qualtrics as COO in 2016, and he's been the CEO since 2020. He's been instrumental in the development and launch of the experience management platform and Qualtrics AI. Prior to joining Qualtrics, Zig was a corporate vice president at Microsoft. He led a multi-billion-dollar enterprise collaboration services that became Microsoft Teams and the teams that developed Microsoft's artificial intelligence platform. We've got a lot to cover today, as I mentioned just a few moments ago, including how AI is transforming the work at Qualtrics and Zig's role specifically. So we're going to dive right in. Thank you for joining us, Zig.
It's a pleasure, and good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever people might be joining us from.
Fantastic.
Zig, one thing we like to ask in conversations that we have with leaders around AI is how they're using it in their day-to-day work. So just to start off, can you talk a little bit about how you're using ChatGPT, Claude, whatever your tool of choice is, to help you in your role as CEO of Qualtrics?
Sure, like on a personal level, I think there's not a day, frankly, probably not a couple of hours that go by these days where I'm not using some AI tool, and it varies from, what do I need to paying attention to in market news, researching something, picking up on a trend related to something, using our own tools to actually hone in on what our AI tools are recommending that is going to be important to a certain type of customer or types of customers, using our own tools for even coaching me on things I should be paying attention to with our employee base. So it is the new life, frankly, and it's making me more productive. And I feel like I have not only the human workforce that gets to work with me and that I get to work with, but I have a digital workforce that's AI driven.
Can you talk a little
Yeah,
bit about that coaching example? Like, how are you using it to coach you as a CEO?
Well, we have a capability that is called Qualtrics Assist for employee experience. And it's a powerful system because it's grounded in understanding the employee experience. So knowing where our workforce is in their life cycle. So you might have a cohort of employees that have joined us from different parts of the world who are relatively new and they're ramping in the company. You have cohorts of leaders who have been with the company for a longer time. They're in different locations. They are potentially going through a change or ramping on a new project. And so the idea of, old idea where you would actually parse through dashboards of information and have to, analyze the data yourself is going by the side now and actually getting replaced with Qualtrics Assist for Employee Experience. And so what comes to me is a tool that says, hey, here's what you need to be paying attention to. Here's what's important, not only what's on the mind of people, but things that I should be spending my time on in a particular week, or things that I should make sure that one of my leaders is spending time on as well, which not only helps to facilitate the conversation I have with someone, but I also know that they have access to the tool as well. And so that's an example of how I use the Qualtrics Assist for Employee Experience.
yeah. So it sounds like you having a tool like that, you really sort of get to hear it, directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Like it really sort of makes sure that there's a direct connection between what your employees are saying, feeling, experiencing, and then your ability to hone in on that thing right in the moment rather than like waiting to hear it through, few other levels of teams, other managers. But I want to
Yeah,
zoom
let
out a
me let
little.
me just jump in on that because you hit that
Yeah.
really, really well. It means that, really being able to understand people as opposed to just going through transactional interaction with people.
Yeah.
And part of Qualtrics' history is rooted in research sciences. In the employee world, it's also in IO psychology. And so think
Mhm.
of it as a system that acts like you have one of the world's best HR leaders working with you and saying, here's what you should be paying attention to and what's
Hmm.
important. And of course, it's only as good as the data, right? And
Right.
the uniqueness of our system is that we actually have data that understands what drives people's behavior, what's important to them. It's trusted data, and it creates a virtuous ecosystem, which then fuels this assistant.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that. I think it sounds like this technology, even though the hype or the noise around it almost sort of makes it feel as though the focus shouldn't be on humans. It's often sort of promoted in the media as like, this is human replacement. This is something that's going to like get rid of jobs. And sure, I think there will be a shift and we'll talk a little bit about that. But it sounds like this is about getting down to like real human sentiment, making sure that we're really listening, making sure that we're really seeing people. And that feels really powerful in terms of the use cases and, of course, the type of opportunity that can come from that.
Yeah, ultimately creating better ways to connect with people, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
a customer or an employee.
Yeah. Let's continue to like zoom out a bit to Qualtrics as a company. Can you give us maybe a high level overview? Obviously, this was just one example that you shared, but of some of the ways that Gen AI is being used internally at the company.
Yeah, let me start off with just for context for
Yeah.
people that may have some familiarity with Qualtrics, but just to get a deeper understanding. I mean, at the end of the day, our platform is enabling organizations to use our system to be a force for good. We help public sector, private sector organizations to be more proactive in the way they support people, be more personal, serve employees, customers in ways that take advantage of the moments that matter in every single interaction, in every data point, and ultimately to be able to improve the shared human experience that exists between a business and the people that they ultimately serve. You think about a healthcare organization, for example, how well the nurse practitioners, the doctors, the entire digital system of that healthcare organization improves the shared human experience of the patient, as an example, and the family that's associated with that patient. And you take that concept and you can apply that to Procter and Gamble, you can apply that to Home Depot, you can apply that to Delta Airlines. And so rooted in that, in the way that AI is coming to life is, we've seen a radical transformation of what it means to be an experience management platform for a company. So most recently, we announced what we call experience agents, which is think of this
Mhm.
as specialized autonomous digital workers that are now part of the platform, where you're bringing a whole new level of intelligence, decision making, but most importantly, actioning as part of the system. And this expands on work that we did over maybe about a year and a half ago in Gen AI, where we extended the value of XM to help summarize insights, to be able to get through things that you should be paying attention to more quickly, reduce the cycle time required to be able to analyze. But now experience agents are taking that type of insight and very deliberately showing up and saying, okay, how do I action on these things? How do I ultimately improve the relationship with the human being that I'm interacting with, whether it's an employee or a customer, and build connections, and ultimately, when you build real connections with people where you feel like you're understood, where you are understanding that person, again, whether that's an employee or whether a customer, that's where you're actually building real relationships. And by the way, that could be moments that are not so good. You could have messed up. You could have created a bad moment to your customer. How you show up in that moment, given experiential context that our platform enables, informs the action that you take. And so AI, especially in the form of agentic AI, now not only tells you what is most important to pay attention to, but how to actually solve that problem and close the loop, for example. So it could be in moments that are problems or challenges, or it could be moments where you want to not only meet the expectation, but potentially be in a place where you're exceeding the expectation. There's one of our customers is Porsche, and they've talked about this publicly. And Porsche thinks about the moments that matter as not only meeting customers with their expectations where they're satisfied, but rather being in a place where they create excitement.
Mm.
And knowing how to create excitement for different types of people and what moments matter to them the most isn't just what happens within the car. It's the entirety of the experience around how your car is serviced, how you might select the car, the interaction that you have with the front line of the company, whether that's in the service or the dealership or the digital experience. And so what we're doing with AI is we're taking all of that and we're making it even easier and more expedient to leverage that type of capability, as if you had the best representative of a company right in front of your customers at every moment that matters.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about how you at Qualtrics are using that for your own company?
Sure. Yeah, we have well, first off, internally, as I've mentioned, we use Qualtrics Assist for managers, and so our managers are able to more quickly understand what they should be paying attention to from employee feedback. They get recommendations, and that's just changed the course of how our managers and our leaders are able to go about doing their jobs. And you're essentially scaling the best of what a manager capability is across all of your managers. And you think about it, we have over 5,000 employees around the world. We've got a lot of leaders that are running our teams, and people are all in different stages of their careers and their abilities. So if you have this coach that helps to enable a leader to say, here's what you need to pay attention to. Here's what the best of other managers might look like. And that's packaged up for you and it's changing on a weekly level. That's a way of scaling the experience with employees, as an example. We have internally what we call the AI playground.
Hmm.
And the AI playground is open to all teams inside the company. It's the tool set that's available for employees in order to get their job work done. So think about it. If you're, in construction, for example, you get a tool belt, right? And you
Right.
say, here's the things I'm going to use to get my job done. The AI Playground is a group of solutions that are both experience management solutions, so our own solutions that employees have access to, and they span voice of customer, digital care, employee-based AI solutions. But we also have third-party tools in there, productivity apps, coding assistants, sales tools. Our finance teams getting going on accounts payables and accrual teams to be able to decrease the time that's required to be able to run account payable accruals, for example. And at the end of the day, you call it the playground because you give people the ability to immerse themselves in learning and experimenting. It's a lot of fun to be able to learn to do your job differently, but also to scale some of the best practices that teams are seeing.
Hmm.
And the payoff is more efficiency. You're taking each type of employee, you're giving them tools that saves them time. You get more out of their time. You're driving productivity, and probably most importantly, using these capabilities to strengthen customer connections. And that's where the Qualtrics toolset, AI toolset comes into the equation.
What's the process for identifying and kind of green lighting these different tools that are in this broader tool set or different use cases internally at Qualtrics?
Probably the number one thing, first off, is that our security team gets involved in making sure that it's a trusted tool, right? And
Okay.
we have a very sensitive data that we're responsible for as a company, and so it's really important that it meets the security constructs as well as ethical constructs of how our data is used in order to be able to provide a capability to anyone involved in providing a service to the marketplace. And so whether it's an employee doing something to be able to enable the work that they do internally in the company, or someone being enabled to do a better job with the way that they serve a customer. And then beyond that, I wish I could say it's deeply methodical. It's there's a lot of experimentation. We reward that. We love encouraging curiosity and learning and checking out what new things are. But once we start to see uh, a good runway on a feature or a capability, then we'll put it into the AI playground. We'll codify that. We'll make the whole company aware of it. We've set goals and metrics at the leadership level. It's part of our scorecard
Hmm.
on how AI capable our workforce is and the benefits that we should expect to see from that. We hold ourselves accountable to that, not any different than holding ourselves accountable to serving and supporting our customers.
Hmm.
And so it's part of the KPIs of the company. And of course, to enable that, you have to foster the curiosity, the experimentation, and then you standardize, and then you put that into the AI playground, and then you learn from each other around what's working, what's not working. There's a speed of learning that's expected, but it's also a lot of fun because people are finding that they can do their jobs differently, and frankly, what we're also finding is that people can spend their time on things that are higher value. Like, for example, the amount of time that you can spend enabling someone who is customer facing to spend more time with the customer, as opposed to dealing with rudimentary, basic, repetitive tasks on a daily level. And so we're
Right.
starting to see the beginnings of that not only affects the bottom line of your company, but most importantly, allows you to show up on things that really, really matter, which for us, it's about building customer connection.
Yeah. I really like the framing of the playground. Like, I think it really speaks to the experimentation and that's still happening even when you have sort of decided that something could be a useful path.
Takes you back to
Speaking
when you were a kid a little bit, right? But think about the
exactly,
playground, and that's kind of what it is. Like you
exactly.
want that feeling.
Yeah, and that curiosity to still remain. You spoke about metrics and how this is something that you and the rest of the leadership team are still holding yourself accountable to. So I feel, it's like every few months there's some new article about how companies aren't yet seeing a big ROI on AI. Are you at a stage where you're able to measure return on investment, or are you still kind of a little bit more grounded in that experimentation phase?
It really depends upon the discipline. So just speaking from an internal company perspective, it depends if you go department by department, legal, finance, HR, customer success, it depends. In some areas, it's too early to tell. In others,
Yeah,
we're seeing payoff. As an example, in our engineering organization, I was just looking at a report from our engineering team last week, where they've been able to pick up around about, I think about $340,000 of dollar savings um, uh, per month with a subset of our engineering team's use of one of the coding assistants. And at the end of the day, what that's done is it actually has increased the percentage of time of what you are able to enable a coding engineer to spend their time on and get a higher return.
right.
And so, there are discrete metrics like that. Probably the most important benefit that we're seeing is what our customers are telling us about how they use our tools in the marketplace in order to be able to deepen the relationship with their own customers. We have thousands of customers today that are using the AI capabilities that we put into the market today with our experience management system, and they're finding ways to deepen the relationship with their customers. That's translating to very tangible results in renewing their relationships with their customers, expanding business with their customers, in more uncertain markets, knowing what matters to their customers in order to be able to be top of mind and doing things that actually makes a difference for their business. So we're a focusing system for them, both on an individual worker level as well as on a level of how the CEO of a company leads their organization to focus on the things that are going to matter the most. Having the right products in the market, for example, having the right mix, having the right pricing and packaging for
Yeah,
different segments of their market, knowing what parts of their customer journey will matter the most as that customer engages with them. It could be a specific part of the digital experience when someone's placing in the order within, a B2B manufacturing business, for example. It's like they'll value that and they'll pay you a premium for that
right.
if you zoom in on it at this particular point in time. It could be a supply chain disruption. And if you
Yeah.
show up in the best way right now, you probably will command a premium, and you're probably going to get more than fair share of your market versus your competition. And so these are the types of things that we're able to help companies scale with expediency using our XM for customer experience as well as XM for employee experience parts of our platform.
There was this memo from the Shopify CEO that got a lot of attention a couple weeks ago. I'm sure you saw it, where he said that using AI effectively is an expectation for every worker at his company. But one element of the memo that got a lot of attention, which was basically he said uh, people need to demonstrate why they can't use AI to do something before they ask for more resources or headcount. I'm curious what you made of that memo, how you reacted to it when you saw it, if that's like consistent with what you've been seeing and hearing in the conversations you've been having with CEOs.
I think one of the first places that people are going to with AI is they say, hey, what transactions or tools or tasks or jobs can I become more efficient in? And some leaders are taking, sort of more emphatic decisions like, okay, I'm not going to hire yet another individual until, it's proven to me that, an AI agent can't replace that job entirely, right? And others are saying, hey, depends on the business I'm in, what the function is, and we're scaling different aspects of AI, and I think probably the bigger takeaway that I'm seeing, and it's actually top of mind for leaders that I interact with every single week, CEOs, COOs, CHROs of virtually every industry you can imagine, is AI is not only important to be able to scale the transactions or activities of your business, or perhaps, the performance of workers in your business. It's just as important to be able to scale the relationships and the connections you have with your customers. And so this is where we're coming in, which is helping them to be able to improve the human experience, improve the ability to build a deeper relationship, and what's unique is the way that we're partnering with companies in not only, hey, how do you enable better efficiency, but also how do you actually strengthen the way that you build a deeper connection with your customer or with your employees so they can do a better job with your customer at the end of the day. And so these things go hand in hand. You have this desire to be able to transactionally become more effective, make whether the employees better enabled using AI tools, or at the same time, you're saying, okay, how do you use an experience management system to make sure that you're showing up in a way that actually builds a deeper relationship, build a deeper connection with your customers every time and every moment that matters. And so that's also a big theme that we're seeing in the marketplace. And why? It's because it ultimately affects the results that these leaders have to report to with their own board of directors or with their own shareholders. And so
Right.
it's not just, hey, I became more productivity and I got more productivity and I reduced my costs. Like at the end of the day, what did you do to be able to make sure that you are advancing your business, that you're delivering on the growth expectations that the market is expecting in your market, that you're maintaining share in your market. And of course, those are outcomes from the inputs, and the inputs are, well, how good of a job did you do with your market? How good, leading with your customers? Did you build a deep connection with that customer? Did you correct things that weren't happening that are needing to happen to be able to help better that relationship so that when that customer decides on where they're going to spend their money next, they want to keep coming back to you. And so this is an area where our platform is becoming just as important for people and saying, okay, I've got to not just be focused on things transactionally. I need to focus on strengthening and deepening the connection. So I'm better serving, better supporting the customer in the moments that matter.
Yeah. So based on what you've just shared, I'm curious, just as you sort of sit down and think about, where Qualtrics is going in the next year, 5 years, has the use of AI changed your expectations for employees?
Absolutely. I would say that if you look at what you will want an employee to be proficient in, you know, this year, but then especially as you look in the next 5 years, you're expecting people to not only be conversant, but they actually make, the use of AI part of the way they get their work done. But, not only that, I think jobs will change. You'll see
Yeah.
job descriptions become different. People will spend more time on the next layer of value, which is, I think, how you exercise judgment around how you manage an AI workforce. It doesn't matter what job you're in. You could be at an entry-level position responsible for supporting customers. Your job will change because what you were doing today is going to get replaced by um, fairly proficient AI tools that will show up and do a good job. And so you better be in a position where you can manage a set of tools or quote unquote a digital workforce like that in order to be able to scale and make an impact with supporting customers as one simple example. If you're in finance, the way that you might run the financial controls or be responsible for accounts payable or account receivable, you'll be running a group of agents, right? And if not, your job will be replaced. If you are doing things that might be fairly repetitive, you got to figure out how new tools are going to come about that will actually make those repetitive things be, an automation. But then the next level of your responsibility is going to be around making sure that the tools are showing up in the right way, making sure that you're thinking through how that job can be expanded or better enabled to be able to create a better impact for the company. That could be having good strategic thinking skills. It could be
Yeah.
better enabling empathy as part of the experience that is being delivered, whether that's between employees or whether that's supporting customers. So things will evolve substantially, and I think if we look at what the composition of a workforce looks like today versus 5 years from now, and if you were to put a spreadsheet together of all the job roles that are today, we will see a new type of set of job roles 5 years from now, and most companies will become AI companies. And if
Yeah.
they're not, they will be subject to obsolescence in time. Now, that might differ based on industry. Some industries move faster than others, but virtually every industry will have that opportunity. If you're in manufacturing, obviously the role of robotics will become even more significant. If you're in
Right.
the services industry, you're going to be better enabled to do things that allow you to spend more time with customers. And as you do so, you'll be spending more time on things that are up-leveling the human experience that exists between your service, your firm, and that customer.
Yeah. It, I know that you already have a lot of opportunity to spend with customers in your role, but how has AI transformed your role as CEO and I think just the CEO role in general? What are you seeing that's maybe happening now, and what are you expecting, as we talked about, in that like year, 5 years, in terms of differences?
Well, I think first and foremost is there's a lot of listening amongst other leaders that I get to work with around the world of what is AI doing for them? What are their expectations? And what's interesting is the focus is not around the technology or the tools. It's like what opportunities does it actually create for how they show up as a company? How might it help them reinvent who they are as a company over time? And so the way that we spend our time today is more tuning in and listening and ideating and collaborating first and foremost. For me personally, I'm able to be more effective, as I was saying at the beginning of our conversation here. Like I said, there's probably not a couple of hours a day to go by where AI isn't informing me. Some AI agent or some tool that I'm using isn't better informing me to be more well prepared in what I need to spend time on. And that opens up time that can be used elsewise to support customers or to have deeper conversations with people or to work on more strategic things. And so that's on a personal level. And I think if I were to project that forward into the future, I will have more of my workforce that I get to work with be AI based, purely AI based. But that doesn't mean that we won't have also refactoring of our existing workforce. We'll also have a large workforce of people. They'll just be doing more advanced things. And I think that's how things will ultimately evolve.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's super helpful. Jacob and I have spent another episode of the AI download talking a little bit about that. And like, if it's not about replacing, it's what does that mean for our capacity and our knowledge and our just ability to do more strategic and maybe hopefully more creative work down the line. And so interesting just to hear you talk about that.
Yep.
But we're going to go ahead and get into some quick rapid fire questions before we wrap. Again, if you're new to the AI download, this is something that we do here and there. And the goal is just to kind of hear what's top of mind for people. So Zig will ask you to keep your answers to a sentence or less. And my first question for you is, what is your favorite AI tool at the moment?
Well, I'm biased. I have to say it's the Qualtrics Experience Management Qualtrics Assist tool set.
Wonderful.
Good answer. What's something you refuse to use AI for?
I refuse to use it for trying to discover things that are personal to people, right? And
Mm,
fortunately, the good tools keep the AI from doing it.
Hmm.
yeah, interesting. What is something cool that you used AI for recently?
Drawing pictures.
Love that.
A
I have
good
to
use.
ask, what were the pictures of?
If you take a look at my LinkedIn profile, there's a new picture that's up there, and that was AI created, and it
Oh,
reflects how I feel about Seattle. And so, but it also a reflection, a bit of, being able to have your head above the clouds, and
Mhm.
yet be feet on the ground. And that's how I kind of think about running a company and being a part of an organization is you got to keep your head in the clouds about where the vision in the future is going and also stay
Yeah,
grounded and be real with what matters to people practically.
yeah.
what's something you're embarrassed to admit you've used AI for?
That's an interesting question. I don't know, probably coming up with with the joke of the day. I don't know. I That's probably a bad answer, but I'll have to think on that one.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. And then my last one for you, Zig, what's something that AI can't currently do for you, but you hope that it'll be able to do for you in the future?
That's a really great question. What I hope will happen with AI in the future is actually taking every single moment that a customer has with our company, whether it's, discovering what the next tool, can do for them, whether it's, supporting them in the right way, and showing up in that moment and precisely being able to address things for them in a way that expands their relationship and that just makes people feel delighted every day and time, every single moment.
Yeah.
And clearly that's part of the vision of where we're heading and what we expect to accomplish, but that is a wish that I have, and it's part of our vision.
Yeah, I love that. I think that that's some of the excitement and hopefully for a lot of people and just companies at large is to create more moments of delight. And AI can certainly help us do that more rapidly, which is very cool to see. So hopefully in the near future, we'll get to talk to you about how you're seeing that and how your customers are reacting to it as well.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much, Zig, for this really thoughtful conversation. It's exciting to see what is happening at Qualtrics, what you all are doing internally. And I think the thing that is really wonderful for me to hear and just important, I hope it's a message that other organizations take away, is that AI can be a real opportunity to build our capacity for human connection and our capacity to be a little bit more empathetic, a little bit more grounded, a little bit more in touch with one another. And that sounds like Qualtrics is really sort of focusing on just expanding that experience for humans with this technology, which is really wonderful.
Well,
So, Zig,
Marcella, thank you for your time, and
thank
Jacob as
you.
well. And thank you to everybody with your questions and just tuning in. We appreciate all of you. And I think Marcella, you did a wonderful job of summarizing it, which is ultimately AI can strengthen the connection between human beings and other human beings, and that should improve the shared human experience for people.
Yeah,
Thank you, Zig.
absolutely. All right, Zig, take care, and we'll see you all out there. Have
All
a great
right. Thank
day.
you all.
Everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.